wax moth, little larvae, and you'll see it crawling through, tunneling through the wax, eating the wax and the honey, and it leaves like a spider webby stuff all over. If you see them, kill them, get them out of the hive. But hopefully your bees will be strong enough they'll take care of that. But after you've got it off, they still live in there and they'll destroy it. Wax moth can destroy a whole 10-frame super in about 2 weeks. They can go through it and destroy all of the wax in there. And then they hatch, or the larvae, once it gets a certain age, it burrows into the wood, and then it makes a cocoon, and then it hatches into a full moth, and then it flies out and goes and infests somebody else. So you just want to make sure that you get them and keep them destroyed. Extracting. So when you extract, you'll go in, you'll pull your supers off, get all the bees out of them best you can. There's ways of doing that. There's a product called Fisher Bee Quick, which I like to use. You get it's called a fume board, solar fume board. It's a top that has kind of a clear top with some felt underneath it. You spray this Fisher Bee Quick on it. Fisher Bee Quick is a pleasant smell. It's kind of an almond smell is what most people refer to it as. So it smells good. There's a product called Bee Gone or Bee Robber, and it stinks really, really bad. But it does the same thing. The bees don't like the smell of it, so they move away from it. I like the Fisher Bee Quick because it doesn't make my honey stink, where the other stuff does. In fact, I ordered some in for a guy. He insisted on having the Bee Robber. I couldn't even keep it in the store. It smelled so bad I had to store it outside. And people bring their honey in all the time. They'll come into our extraction kitchen, and I'll say, "You use Bee Robber because you can smell it on the. It's nasty." So you can either do that, you spray it on there, set it on, the sun warms it up. The bees don't like the smell of it, so they move down out of the honey super. That way you can pull that whole super off at once, and there's hardly any bees in it. Then you want to pull each frame, brush any excess bees off, and store them. Once you pull them, you pull this box of honey off of here, and you decide, okay, I got this full box of honey, I'm going to set it over here. You set it over there, and you go back to work your hive. 10 minutes later, you I got to take care of this honey. You go back over here, it will be totally covered with bees again. So if you're going to set it over here, have a bottom, have a top, and cover it up, because the bees will find it, and they'll take all their honey and they'll put it back over here. Okay, people take them all the time. They say, okay, I've got this. They take it to their garage. They set it on the garage floor. They close the garage door, and they go. And a couple days later, they come back, and it's completely empty. Because the bees, the window was open, or they found a hole through the door. They find that, and they go in there, and they steal it all back. Because they want it all back. And so you just got to be careful. Make sure you seal it up, because you don't want to have to get the bees off of there again to harvest it. So some people, they don't want to carry that whole box. They don't want to use the Fisher Bee Quick, whatever. So you pull a frame. You'll have your bee brush. So you do that over the hive. Take your bee brush. Just brush the bees off the frame. Get them all off. Have another super or Rubbermaid container or something. Put that frame in it. Close it up. Come over, pull the next frame. Do the same thing. Put it in the container. When you get where it's getting too heavy, take that into the house, put it somewhere, come back and do the rest of them. Okay, you just don't want to brush them off and set them over in the open somewhere, because they will take it back if they can. It's kind of irritating. You spend all that time brushing them off, and then they realize you got to do it all over again. So, and then you bring it back to either wherever you're going to harvest. We have equipment you can buy, we have equipment you can rent, we have a kitchen that you can rent. I don't know if you've all seen that or not, but we do have an extraction kitchen here. You're going to need a hot knife, uncapping tank, extractor, filter, and then something to store it in, and then bottles to put it in after that. So basically, but what you're going to do is bring it back. You have an uncapping tank, which is so when you cut your cappings off, they fall down in that tank. Any honey that's on those will drain down into the bottom of the tank. You can then harvest that honey, and then you'll have the wax that you can harvest and use to make candles lip balms, lotions, and all those kind of things. But you have a hot knife, which is a knife plugged into the wall, it heats up, and that allows you to slice through that wax and cut those cappings off. You'll run it right along the wood here, and so it makes that flat. And you just, some people go from the top down, some people go from the bottom up, whatever's easiest. You just saw kind of like through it, melt it through, do both sides. You then take that, place it in the extractor. Extractors are different. The smaller extractors, put it sideways, and you have, we have 3-frame extractors, and it'll spin it. You have to spin it for a little while, turn it over, so you get about half the honey out of the first side, turn it over, extract the second side, get all the honey out of the second side, flip it back over and do the honey on the first side again. The reason why that, if you just try to get all of it out of the first side, the weight from the honey on the back will push and sometimes collapse your frames. And so you've got to flip them. Other extractors, the one in the store, it's a 32 frame, so it holds 32 frames, it holds them sideways, so it extracts both sides at the same time. So you can just put them in there, spin them, and you're done. So you can see how they're uncapping that. After you uncap, you've got a whole frame of uncapped honey. Looks really good. Put in an extractor, spins the extractor, the honey runs out. You want to have some kind of filter. There's going to be pollen parts, wax particles, different things inside that honey. We sell these. It's the way I like to do it. A double seed, is what it's called. Has one grade that's a little or heavier gauge than the bottom one's finer. So it runs through, gets most of the wax particles, and then goes through the second one, right into a 5-gallon bucket. We have 5-gallon buckets with taps on the bottom of them, honey gate. And that way you've got it right in that bucket, and you can bottle right out of that bucket into your bottles. This is Nate and Charity Davis. They did harvest it a couple of years ago. They got 900 pounds of honey. They had 40 hives. Okay. She was doing it at home for years before we opened with a 3-frame extractor, and it would take her over a month to harvest everything. They were able to do it here in 2 days with the big extractor. So, but it's really good. Put it in bottles. You can use any kind of bottles you want.